当你想表达自我意见跟感受的时候，你们发现你常常会用 I think。它除了非常的 repetitive 之外，它也算是一种 conversation killer。那如果你想知道为什么，还有你想知道有什么其他的方式可以表达自我意见跟感受的话， stay tuned to our episode today。Hello， 欢迎来到商业英语 Career Plus 的 Podcast。在这边，我们利用多年国际职场与教学经验，带给大家最真实与贴切的职场英语知识。Hi, I'm Sherry, founder of Executive Plus. As a language trainer and certified coach, I've trained hundreds of managers from Fortune 500 companies such as Dior, Google, and Deloitte & Touche.
And I'm Nick, Director of Communication Strategy at Presentality.I've helped startups raise millions of US dollars in funding and trained executives of publicly listed companies to present on the global stage. Welcome back to Career Plus Podcast Episode 10, where we're going to talk about how to express yourself. And just like the 80s pop icon Madonna, expressing yourself is really important.So, Sherry, Madonna, greatest 80s icon ever, yes or no?
I think she's alright.
And this is why expressing your opinion is a very easy way to kill a conversation. We express our opinions every day, multiple times a day. But what a lot of us don't realize is sometimes when we express our opinion, we're more likely to kill a conversation than to keep it going and building a connection.Yeah,
absolutely. Especially when you just kind of start the sentence with, I think, because it's just basically about you, right? It has nothing to do with the conversation itself.
Sounds like the little engine that could. I think I can. But you're just talking to yourself, right?
Yeah. 所以我们刚刚讲到说，用这种 I think, 你其实在讲的是自己的感受，但是你跟对方你没有做任何的连接，所以有的时候就很像刚刚那样子，就是整个 conversation 就停住了，就延续不下去。
Right, but if someone wanted to just start expressing themselves in a different way, how would they go about doing that?
So there's so many different ways you can do that, and it is something that you have to remind yourself. 这些是你常常要提醒自己，因为每一个人都有他最习惯的方式。那 I think 它其实是一个非常直觉性的一种说法，所以你要改变它，我觉得还是需要一些时间。但是你可以常常提醒。For example, you can say, I believe, or in my opinion, from my point of view, I strongly believe.Or I would say, I want to say. I think these are all very good ways to start the sentence.
Yeah, these are all a great way to start just mixing it up. Now, there are some subtle differences between like I think and I believe. One being more about logical, or another one, I believe, gets used a lot for faith. But in general, these are pretty interchangeable, and no one's going to call you out if you're like, I believe this is the correct direction. They'd be like, you believe or you think.
So that's a good point. 那刚刚 Nick 有讲说，其实这一些的用意都是一样的，所以不必要去着重说，哎，这个有没有什么小小的不同？其实他们的用法都是差不多的。
Yeah, the only thing that we might play with, just from a humor standpoint, if someone will be like, I think, blah, blah, blah. I'd be like, I don't want you to think. I want you to know.
Okay. I remember hearing that from my professors.
Yeah.
You got to know this. You don't think this, right? Yeah. So now, a lot of times when I'm teaching or when I'm, asking my clients what they think about certain things or do they understand, what I've been talking about, I usually get someone goes, and that's it.
Yeah, like the least amount of ways or least verbal way to agree with someone, right? Like,
yeah,
yeah, sure.
这让我觉得说有点虚，让我觉得你真的懂吗？还是你们真的同意吗？ it just makes me feel like, you sure you actually agree with me? It got to be some other ways to express how you agree with someone, right?
Yeah, I mean, and there's even very basic ways that sound a little bit more enthusiastic than something like, oh, absolutely, or exactly. That sounds perfect. any of these phrases kind of show a bit more enthusiasm or engagement on behalf of the person who's giving agreement, right?
Definitely. So definitely is another one.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
Oh my God. I think that's my ex-boss's favorite phrase.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I couldn't agree more.
Or you can say, oh, that sounds like a fantastic idea. Or, oh, you have a great point.
Yeah. Right. So all these show agreement, but like we said, a lot of this time when expressing opinions is we want it to continue the conversation, continue building connection. So what do you think is the best way to either express your opinion in general or show agreement, but then make sure the conversation continues?
So I think there are a couple of different levels of that. 那如果你这个是一个小小的 tactic， 如果你刚刚在对方他讲的话，你有一些小单字有点不是非常清楚，你可以用这种方式，你可以说 Could you tell me more?Right? 这种是一个非常 general 的方式 you can always carry on the conversation by asking someone to tell me more or elaborate more on certain things.
Right. So when you're showing that agreement and you're like, oh, you have a great point. Could you tell me more? Or could you elaborate on that? Could you expand on that? Just basically is showing that agreement, but moving into the follow-up questions to really keep the conversation going. A lot of times when you just agree or you just express your opinion, that's a period. That's not a question. So a question can keep it rolling.
Yeah. But there is also another deeper level where you really want to connect with someone and show them that you heard them. Like you actually pay attention to the conversation. So how would you do that, Nick?
So if you want to do it is just add in a few details or summarize what the person said. So instead of just saying, could you tell me more? You could just say, could you tell me more about, and then get into the details of it. It's like, oh, you have a great point about how traveling in Japan can be really inexpensive. Could you tell me more about the best places to visit in southern Japan? Right? I'm actually summarizing or I'm really getting into the points of what they're talking about.
所以刚刚 Nick 讲到说，其实你可以挑出一些之前讲到一些小 detail， 或者是你直接总结像他刚刚所讲的一些重点，你再去问你的 follow up question。那其实这个会创造更多的价值，因为你直接显出说你真的有认真的在听对方所讲的话，然后 you can carry on the conversation even more effectively.
Right. And by doing these details, you're getting beyond someone just going, oh yeah, continue talking about that. We've all been on phone conversations where either ourselves or we know the other side is just kind of, on autopilot, like, yeah, oh yeah, that's terrible. Oh no, tell me more about that. But they're not actually engaging in the conversation. And so these follow-up questions and getting into the detail or summarizing what they're saying is making sure that someone understands that you're actively listening.
So actively listening, that is definitely the key here.
Right. And this is going to be key whether it's agreement or disagreement. And we'll get a bit into that in the next episode where disagreement has a lot to do with showing that you're listening as opposed to just giving back your opinion.
所以如果大家想要知道说那不同意人家或表达不同的意见或者是可能是有些建设性的批评的时候你到底要怎么做才最好 So stay tuned for our quick recap later. 所以在我们这个 recap 中我们第一个就讲到了说你要怎么样表达自己的意见也就是 expressing yourself 那你可以讲说 I believe, in my opinion, from my point of view, I would say, I want to say, I strongly believe. 那如果你想要同意人家你可以很简单的说 Absolutely, exactly, that sounds perfect. Definitely, I couldn't agree more.That sounds like a fantastic idea. You have a great point. 那如果你想要再加个 follow-up question, 那你可以说 Could you tell me more? Could you tell me more about? I'd like to know or hear more about. Could you elaborate or could you expand on? I'd like to hear how something works. Or I heard...Could you tell me if I'm understanding that correctly? Alright, so stay tuned to our next episode on how to do disagreement. See you later. 如果你喜欢我们的 podcast， 欢迎来追踪我们的主管英文 Executive Plus 的 Facebook。那也可以写信到我们的信箱yourcareerplus@gmail.com。